Momentum clearly building for NATO troops in Ukraine. Today's episode, we're going to talk why we believe in the next 6 months, something is about to pop off. Of course, the French-led push for deeper NATO involvement inside Ukrainian borders is making headway with European allies, a spokesperson for President Emmanuel Macron's political party said. Now, we've talked about France a lot lately because they have made, Macron specifically, has made a lot of comments about actually sending in troops. It says Benjamin Haddad, a member of parliament for Macron's Renaissance Party, has considered a leading voice in French foreign policy discussions, told Newsweek on the sidelines that Lennart Meri conference in Estonia last week that NATO and European Union need to, quote, turn the tables on Russian President Vladimir Putin after more than 2 years of a full-scale war. Oddly enough, that conference being in Estonia, when Estonia is the other party that has been saying that they most likely want to send in people, and this is all being said. This is easily predictable if you've been following this for a very long time, like most of you have. It's very easy to see that at least the NATO part of this, if not USA, that NATO is going to have an escalation. It says Macron is seeking to reestablish Western strategic ambiguity and knock Moscow off balance with the deployment of NATO forces inside Ukraine in non-combat roles among his recent proposals, which means send in soldiers but have them holding rakes instead of weapons, right? Doesn't make too much sense. If they get taken out by a rogue missile or something, it's the same result, whatever they may be holding. Though immediately dismissed by the U.S., the idea has won backers in Europe, particularly in nations that sit along Russian frontiers. So everybody on the border is saying, great idea. Yeah, this is totally awesome. Yeah, guys, we should be the ones fighting. Momentum for deeper NATO commitments, including troop deployment. Again, this is said like it just rolls off the tongue. Troop deployments of NATO into Ukraine, directly fighting Russia, is insanity. But again, I digress. In Ukraine is clearly building, Haddad said. It is interesting to see that the first couple days, everyone said it's an isolated position by France. But yet now, everyone is starting to say the same. But since then, leading European figures expressed their support for the proposal for at least an open debate about it, Haddad noted. Among them are Czech President Petr Pavel, Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, and Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski, and Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielas Landsbergis. So all of which are saying, hey, this isn't such a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? I don't know, because it would be an official World War III once this thing starts happening. At least that's what most people believe. This is important because these countries are on the first line, Haddad continued. These are the countries that have had distrust towards Paris and Berlin for a long time. So even their distrust is not stopping them from saying, maybe this isn't a bad idea. It says we spend too much time worried about escalation when Russia is the country that has been escalating. Basically saying we're so worried that we might be escalating things, but Russia's doing all of the escalation for us. Meanwhile, we don't know what the true events are that are unraveling over there. We don't know what Russia's true intentions are, but we do know that they have been becoming very close with China, Iran, with Cuba, with, of course, Venezuela, all of these different countries that absolutely hate the U.S. and the Western nations. They are all getting extremely chummy and even picking up support from a ton of other countries in saying, hey, why don't we start our own currency that goes against the U.S. dollar? At some point, will this end up coming into parity with the U.S. hegemony? We're going to talk about that and many other things tonight, all of the recent events that have just happened in the last 24 hours. And we're going to, of course, talk about the new EPA warning about your water. Very, very creepy stuff. All of this and more on today's show. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Everywhere it goes, hydration for the soul. The chemicals that keep us safe, same ones that we shall fade, that this cup will be okay. Happy birthday, Papa Meatball. Thank you, everybody that made it. And I can't, the actual birthday song is copyrighted, but happy birthday, Papa Meatball. And everybody else that's celebrating birthdays. Obviously, there is a lot going on right now. Before we get into any of the crazy stuff, I do want to warn you, if you're easily anxious and this is your first time in the show, we're going to talk about a lot of serious kind of subjects, and it does get stressful. If you are somebody that's easily panicked by some of the scarier stuff going on in the world, you may want to actually tune out. I try to warn people before we get into the really, really bad stuff, but I often forget. So, again, that's the kind of show this is. We're not going to sugarcoat what is going on. My personal belief is that we are already in World War III, that it is at a proxy status, and that we are not fully engaged yet, but we will be. I very much so hope that all of my friends and peers are right, that maybe, that some shift will happen without a physical war, but I highly doubt it. With the military-industrial complex buzzing like it is, I think that they are just itching to get into a hot war. Most of us can't see that. Most of us just can't even imagine that, because it goes against our morals and conscience and, heck, everything we stand for. But the people at the very top will not be affected by it. Their friends and family won't be affected by it. And they have zero cares that they give about you. So, again, let's say hello to the chat. Thank you, Pamby, Tracy Q. Without you guys, we would be nothing. We are starting a little bit early. We're trying out different time slots. We can't go too early because of we both have day jobs and things. But, again, we try to go on as early as possible for you East Coasters. Again, I know that you guys love the early shows. The Major, Who Dat Dude and Me, Kathleen Nelson, Ed Turner, thank you so much. Rochelle Cooley, what is going on? See Here Think, Mark Roberts, hey Marf, nice to see you. Without you guys coming every day, we wouldn't be anything. So I really do appreciate it. If you want to do us a free favor, just hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, we try to put a lot of value into every show. You can show your support by just hitting the subscribe button, and then, of course, hitting the bell to make sure you get our notifications. Again, that would be a very, very appreciated thing, and let's get into it. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine. And I agree. Something big is going to be going down in the next 166-ish days between now and that big date that's coming up.
So,
and this very well could be it.
Well, and by the way, so the 6-month time period also brings us right into November. November, there is going to be a massive, massive event that we are all really looking forward to, right? And that's sort of sarcasm because we know something big is going to happen there as well. No matter which side you're on, you probably understand that this next November is going to be very insane. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be down in the trenches. And we don't know what is going to happen. How bad do forces that are at play want to continue being forces at play? How bad do they want both sides of this? And we're going to see people turn. We're going to see two-faced people. We're going to see people turning on each other. It's going to be pretty nasty. And one thing I want to hope that you guys understand, I hope that you're able to keep your personal relationships with your friend and family. At this point, most people just like try to even stay away from the topic, because now people are so divided. You bring up anything political, it is done and over with. Depending on who you believe, you might instantly lose 10 friends just talking about your basic beliefs. We've never been in a time, I don't think the world has been in a time like this where has been where, oh, I believe this person should rule, I believe this person should rule, and then it get to the point where if you say that never goes back in, and now you are cut out of their life. So that's bad. We used to be able to talk about that stuff. We would avoid it. Like if you were at the bar, you wouldn't talk about, politics. You wouldn't talk about this, religion, blah, blah, blah. But if you did, it wouldn't be the end of your friendship with somebody, right? Now it is. So that's in every country, by the way. That's not just here in the U.S. That's everywhere. Everyone is having a very similar kind of playbook or situation going on all around the world. In NATO countries, in France, and every country you can think of has been having turmoil, protests, people fighting on both sides, and they always make it a this side versus that side, when really both sides are working together behind the scenes. Both sides have rich people that have their pockets into the companies and corporations that run said countries, and they're all invested in it. So they're holding hands behind the couch, two wings of the same bird. But yeah, once you start waking up to that, it's hard to see it just a one-sided, this side sucks and this side doesn't. It's getting nuts. All right, let's go over to the map. So the momentum of NATO, I don't think it's stopping. They're even showing that it's picking up speed. Dex, do you want to go over Russia is threatening to expand its borders again, this time in the Baltic Sea?
Okay, so this is kind of a weird one. So the defense ministry had unilaterally moved to revise the borders of the Russian territorial waters in the Baltic Sea, drafting a government decree on the expansion without even bothering to not notify any of the NATO members like Finland and Lithuania. Obviously, in reaction to the surprised responses from those states, the Kremlin then issued a statement that seemed bound only to make it worse, insisting that there's, quote, nothing political about the proposed border change. Like, don't worry, there's just nothing nefarious here. And then at the same time, called the political situation, which again, you can't say it's not political and then call it a political situation, has in fact, have a change significantly. And I believe the exact quote was, you see how tensions are escalating, what the level of confrontation is, especially in the Baltic region. This requires our agencies to take corresponding steps to ensure security, they added. So now all this went down, and then out of the blue, the defense ministry removed the orders that they put up there. So we don't know what's actually happening there. And that's what's crazy.
So as far as a proposed border change, I saw a lot of comments of people that actually have been commenting before saying Russia doesn't want to expand their borders. People are starting to wonder. Maybe either they got pushed into doing exactly what they were accused of doing, or that they had this intention the entire time. I see a lot of folks that have been actually pro-Russian now saying like, well, what is this? Or are they doing this on purpose just to make a point? Is something else going on here? So I guess we'll follow it. We'll make sure to keep you guys updated on what happens with it. And then, if you have not heard over the last few days, obviously a lot of folks are talking about the person who just stepped down from the WEF. We call it the WEF, the economic this form that they talk about that's all over the world. Klaus steps back from executive post. Now, is he stepping back like Gates stepped back from Microsoft? Because that's what I think he did. It said that Slob is synonymous with the organization that he has managed for 50 years, initially known for the European Management Forum. Early iterations of the event drew far fewer attendees to the Defos, and I said Defos on purpose, than the 1,000 that now ascend to the Swiss mountain town. I like how they use the word ascend, like they're gods or something. Now, I'm sure they think that. Now, the WEF meeting in the Defos attracts dozens of high-ranking world leaders and CEOs each year, with more than 50 heads of state attending in 2024, according to the organization. I believe this, and I actually think that there's probably more than this that are going, that maybe, didn't put their name on there, or possibly tried to hide it, or were separately there and meeting with all of these people. The forum operates much like a family business. Is that just like the funniest way to put that? The forum operates much like a family business. If you know, you know, but a lot of people believe it's really quite a few families that are in charge of the entire place that we call Earth, with Schwab's children appointed to high-ranking positions and his wife Hildy heading the organization's foundation and awards ceremonies in Defos. In recent years, the forum has shifted its focus towards the center and away from politics, Semaphore previously reported. So, is he actually stepping down? He is 86 years old. And if he is, and maybe he does just want to go golfing, the thing is he's not an actual political leader. He's more powerful than that. Or is he actually handing this down to his son? If you haven't noticed, his son has been popping up way, way more. His son has been talking, and I believe his daughter as well too. And even I think I saw something about like his extended family have been getting these crazy positions too. But mainly, I believe I've seen the son in a lot of these kind of events, and he's been schmoozing with people. What is actually going on here? Don't know. But we also heard that Gates stepped down from Microsoft, only to recently find out that he's basically been involved in almost everything. Speaking of comparable, powerful institutions that have their leader step down. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I think his son Oliver is the managing director at that organization, which probably would make sense for him to potentially step up, and we'll see. That hasn't been announced yet, but they say it's a family business, so don't expect it to all of a sudden go away or be some better person in there, comparatively speaking. I imagine it's going to continue on the way it's been handled in the past.
Yeah, Switzerland and Liechtenstein. I guess they're keeping it in the family, as they say. If you haven't already, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. There is an importance to, as far as any of the affiliates that we've picked, EMP Shield is an actual device that can protect you against not only EMP, but CMEs, or a Carrington level event. If you don't know about this, then I would highly recommend learning more, but it boils down to, this is a simple device. In 10 minutes, you can put in your car, and it will protect and keep your car running from both EMP strikes from an adversarial country or a Carrington level event from the sun. Obviously, most of us all saw the Northern Lights a couple weeks ago. So most people are kind of waking up to the whole solar situation. If you do want to protect yourself against it, then all you have to do is go over and check out an EMP shield. It takes 10 minutes, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground, or part of your frame in your car, and it is done. You just bolt it into the side of your engine block, and your car is protected. Now, this also makes the devices for your generators, your RVs, your motorhomes, your ham radios, and even your regular home. You can actually wire it into your home, and it will protect everything within 250 linear feet of where it is wired in. That means all the devices that are plugged in, say the power goes out, it never comes back on. People go, oh, well, what if it never comes back on? What use would it be? Well, then you have your generator to power your devices. So it's part of a puzzle that everybody should be putting together very slowly if they can, or fast if they want. But it is something that is incredibly important, and we think that will end up saving lives in the event of either an EMP strike or a Carrington level event. MarfoogleNews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF, because you'll not only help our independent channel, but you also save $50 off per device. So if you're outfitting multiple cars, it's a no-brainer. So thank you guys. It's a win-win for everybody. Again, you're helping independent news at the same time. All right, and then Pentagon pursuing Russian use of Musk's Starlink terminals. Dex, let's go over that.
So this has been an issue that's been popping up here in the last couple of months, where they were talking about the fact that Russia was getting the Starlink terminals and then using them for their internet, and near the zones that the conflict is happening. And because of that overlapping zone, they were then able to get connectivity and then leverage Starlink for their own military purposes. This is something that Elon did not want to happen. He said he was not intentionally giving them access, that they're finding ways to do it. So they're basically taking these terminals that may be coming up on the secondary market, buying them, or maybe they're capturing them when they, invade a certain area and pick up some of those terminals, and they're using them. Now, what they're saying is the DoD is actually working with him to find these and shut them down. But the problem's not as easy to solve as one would think. At least that's what they're saying. Now, the first thing I'm questioning is maybe they actually want them to use those terminals. And the reason why I would say that is I can't imagine there's not a scenario in which, with two-way communication from a satellite to a ground receiver, that they can't actually triangulate, or not triangulate would be the wrong word, but cannot determine where that location may be. So it might be in their best interest to let Russia continue to use them, because then they can find them, as opposed to turning them off and then they would be hidden.
They can spy on
them. So they could spy on them. So I almost think that they're just putting this out to say, yeah, we know they're using it. We're working on it. It's a hard process, but we're working with Starlink. So don't worry about it. We're going to make sure they get them shut down. But just understand it's going to take a long time. Which really means, no, we want them to use it, because the more they use it, the more we can spy, the more we can find them, the more we can infiltrate, et cetera. That's my opinion. Again, I'm telling you what they're telling us, and that's the story.
And we have China is actively arming Putin's war in Ukraine. UK confirms for the first time as Xi and Putin cement axis of evil alliance. This is also the wording you would see before you end up going into a massive war. The axis of evil, this is very familiar as far as China working directly with Russia, no matter what ends up being true with this. We do know that China has been sending over all of these containers, not only to North Korea, but to Russia. So just to pop in here real quick. China is flogging arms to Russia in a major boost to Putin's war in Ukraine. Britain's defense minister claims spies tracked, quote, lethal aid from China to Russia and into Ukraine, Grant Shnaps revealed on Wednesday. So with this, as far as the team that they have made, they just met last week and we covered this. There were plans that were obviously made. There's no way that they met in person. The reason why they meet in person is so no one else can hear what they're about to say. Something big is on the horizon. Putin doesn't go and meet Xi for no reason. Something is on the horizon. As far as Grant Schnapp's warning, this is something that we've all known for a very long time. We're hoping that this all, goes back to normal and that everything goes back to, being all peachy keen. But things aren't going to return to the way they were, especially after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Things are not going to return. China still says they are going to take Taiwan. North Korea says they are going to eventually take South Korea, or they're going to reunify, but forcefully. So it's like all of these things are happening all at the same time, and people think it's all a coincidence. These countries are extremely close now. And there's a reason for that. People want to blame this or blame that or even blame JB, but this is part of a bigger plan that JB is just a puppet in. At least that's my opinion. What's yours? As far as China working closely with them, it's getting even worse. Dex, do you want to talk about China takes measures against 12 U.S. military-linked firms?
Certainly. So in retaliation for the sanctions that we recently placed on China, or I would probably say more the tariffs, but they're saying sanctions on the Chinese companies that we've done specifically on the chips and the technology, including some of the military components, as well as the fact that we have been arming Taiwan specifically with sales of military equipment. Some we've provided, some we've just allowed them to buy. They are now putting sanctions against our top military industrial complex companies, such as Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, and just to name a few. So they are now sanctioning 12 companies in the US. Basically, it means they're freezing the assets. So if any of those companies have assets in China, they're all being frozen. They're banning any senior executives from entering the country. So if they needed to go there for a meeting, or if they have a division or a sub component of their company that may be building a piece of componentry there or working with another manufacturer there, they're no longer allowed to send senior executives there. They're barred from the country, as well as potentially other things. So this is, again, it's semi-symbolic, but it does have a little bit of an effect to the people that work at those military industrial complex companies. Again, if there's assets there or if they needed to travel there. But this is part of that tit for tat that's going on between the U.S. and China.
And it's in so many different areas. I was talking the other day, and many of you drone owners or drone enthusiasts know this. DJI just sent out a letter to everybody that's ever been a DJI owner, and they said that you guys are going to need to fight because the U.S. government is telling us that they're going to cut us out of the U.S. at some point. So everybody needs to get together, and the enthusiasts really need to stand up for it. I'm in a torn position because I invested in a DJI drone before a lot of this went down. It's a Mavic 2 Pro, now almost a brick. Back when it was new, and it's like DJI itself, they're cutting out many companies, not just of course the Huawei and all of these. It's like every company, TikTok and DJI and all of these others. This is the preparation before a major war. And you can see it in every facet. China is preparing for major sanctions they're preparing for every company that is in the US to be just cut out of the picture. They're preparing to cut U.S. out of the picture. They're preparing with Russia, actually trading farmland so they can grow things that they import from us, so they can actually import that from Russia. Same with Russia, doing vice versa. They are all meeting. They're all trying to cut the U.S. out of the picture. And that's a big deal, even to threaten cutting the U.S. out of the picture. That with a military like ours, with a CIA like ours, there's no coincidence that William Burns, the head of the CIA, is the one over in Ukraine. There's no coincidence that William Burns has been in the state or in the country right before something happens or a major decision happens. It's because there's espionage going on a whole other level, something people just can't even imagine, from companies to everywhere. As far as the drones, that's a tiny piece of this massive puzzle, and it's like people that purchased expensive drones, they're going to be bricks here soon. But that will be the smallest part of the puzzle. If you have anything that's goes back to China, that's all going to get cut. So we're about to see major changes. I think of what will happen when all of the cheap electronics and the cheap things that come from China, once those stop coming. If we think inflation's bad now, think about when we cut ties with the cheapest manufacturer in the world. A lot of people don't realize how much is actually manufactured there. I mean, obviously people know there's a lot manufactured there, but they don't realize how many regular companies are using everything from that country. Even if it says, assembled in the USA, most of the parts are from China. And they're put together cheaply. That's why we can get a $80 television. That's why we can get all of these things. Dex, go ahead.
Well, a couple of things that come to my mind. One is security cameras all over America, especially the affordable ones that you can put in your home or your small business. You pick them up at Costco or Sam's Club. All of those are all owned by China. They're all made by China, and they all report back potentially to China. I won't be shocked if we don't see that cut out at some point. And then flip it around. What if China says, hey, yeah, we've sanctioned these companies, but the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually put massive tariffs, or not tariffs, but increase the charges or restrict the flow of, say, lithium batteries. Like, what's going to happen then? Everything we are sitting on, it comes out of China. You can't get a solar generator. You can't get a cell phone battery where the lithium didn't come from China. It's going to get messy, and it's going to get messy quick.
Now, it's not until later and that's a reminder to those of you that have been thinking about getting like an energy, a Flex Tactical or something like that. There's a reason why there's a long wait. That those are not that is not a Chinese front company that's making those. That's a company here that has to rely on lithium, and China has control all over it. That's why a lot of these companies that are making solar generators, they just can't get the actual materials. Because there are certain materials that almost have a monopoly based in China. So that, and of course, China wants their own products to be taken care of. But when it comes to somebody else's country, a country that you're potentially going tit for tat with, you're going to make them wait. It's a very scary thing as far as the antibiotics that are manufactured in China. 97% of the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients in the antibiotics, are made in China. 90% of all antibiotics are made in China. Why? That's a big why. Why is there nothing, not a single article about how we are going to start producing these here, how we are even getting the ball rolling on making our own antibiotics? I don't understand this. This is why, and that goes back. All of the affiliates that we've picked, they're for real. Like, we're telling you guys, there are certain things we have picked because this is part of our belief system. We believe that these things are all going to disappear. These things are all going to be harder to get. 90% of all of the antibiotics and 97% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients that go into other medications, all of these things disappear if China gets cut out of the picture. There's no wonder why we're still kind of trying to keep this afloat. Like, this is a big deal. I cannot believe, though, that they are still not trying to get the ball rolling. Why aren't we making our own antibiotics? That just seems so stupid. Meanwhile, China is hoarding gold. You see the gold prices? Well, look at the purchases by China and every China ally. All of the China allies are buying up gold like there is no tomorrow. And I mean it. They mean, like, they're buying it like there's no tomorrow. Gold is almost at $2,400. It might be past it now. I believe it's still over $2,300. For it to go from $1,700-1,800 not too long ago to that, to go up that much in general, the worth of it, that means there are the market cap on gold is absolutely astronomical. So for that much money to be put in gold, that tells you, that's an obvious sign. Everybody knows this, that the US dollar is in shaky ground right now. So people really need to start looking at this, and I don't know how you would be able to communicate that to friends and family members without freaking them out. It's like, in my belief, I believe that this is all about to come to a head, and we're all going to see it. Everybody's going to see it, and by the time they see it, it's going to be too late. Most of you have been prepping for this for years, but if whole countries are hoarding, then maybe it's a good idea that we all kind of get this basic thing started. And then Israel, furious as 3 European countries recognize Palestinian state. As far as Israel reacted with fury after 3 European countries said Wednesday that they would recognize Palestinian state more than 7 months into the devastating Gaza Strip conflict. Ireland, Norway, and Spain said that they would formally recognize the state of Palestine on May 28th. Israel strongly opposes the move, arguing that it amounts to rewarding terrorism after the Palestinian militant group launched its October 7 attack on Israel, which sparked the bloodiest Gaza Strip conflict ever. Israel said that it was recalling its envoys to Ireland and Norway for, quote, urgent consultations, and was expected to do the same with its ambassador to Spain. Foreign Minister Israel Katz charged with the twisted step of these countries is an injustice to the memory of the 710 victims. It's crazy they're calling it the 710 thing. Like, now every event like that is going to have the date into infamy. Most Western governments, including the United States, say that they are willing to one day recognize Palestinian statehood, but not before agreement is reached on thorny issues like its final borders and the status of Jerusalem, which is never going to happen. These two sides have been going at this forever. There isn't going to be an agreement. And that's the craziest part. There is no agreeing between these two sides. There's never going to be. I shouldn't say that. I would pray that there would be some sort of solution here. But at the root of all of this, do you think that these two sides can come to a table and say, yep, we agree this, and you can have that, or you can have that, or you... I mean, like, what is the solution? Like, oh, it's yours from Wednesday to Thursday, and like some sort of, weekend parent or something? How do you do that? Nobody is going to be happy with the outcome of something this important to the root of religions. That's why this thing, I don't think it will ever go away. Unless humans evolve overnight into a, type 1 civilization or something, and this becomes the least important thing in the world, or, God comes down and tells us what to do, I don't know how this would be fixed. Dex, as far as the recognition, why are Norway, Ireland, why are they stepping out now? Like, I guess, is it, what do you think?
Well, I think it's this is a crazy topic, because I think on one hand you might actually see the momentum headed down this path of recognizing the greater portion of the Western alliance starting to recognize that statehood. When you look at, say, the UN, it's like 142 out of 193 of the member countries already recognize them. But the ones that don't are pretty much the ones aligned with the West and aligned with America and aligned with Israel. So if this shift is happening and we see that this sort of snowballs into a more than 3, turns into 10, turns into 20, then that number gets significant enough that it's going to create a greater conflict, I think, especially with the position that Israel has so strongly against having this be created this way, because of the way that they have not been able to get along and be able to have peace amongst everyone. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Obviously, it's a very complicated, I think it's one of the most complex subjects in the world. I mean, to say that, they would support it depending on the outcome of, say, a place like Jerusalem, it's like, add that in there. It's kind of like all of these agreements that have been happening between different countries where they come to a compromise, but the compromise, one side ends up, there's no winning solution, right? There's one side's not going to take a certain hit, and they always put that into some sort of compromise. Go ahead, Dex.
Yeah. That old statement from the U.S. about borders and Jerusalem, to me, that is the easy way out. That's the way that everybody gets to say no without having to say no.
Yep.
Right? They don't want to look bad. They just want to be able to say no without having to say no. And that's what they've all done. It's not that they really want to say yes. They're just saying no.
Yeah. And they have an out. They have an easy out. They're able to say something that they know will never happen. It's like, kind of like when pigs fly or something, right? It's, oh, well, I'll give you a brand new car if you can jump a small building. If you can leap a small building, then I'll give you a brand new car. The Doomsday Glacier is undergoing vigorous ice melt that could reshape sea level rise projections. Now, I know that there's a lot of debate and conjecture around this whole thing. I constantly see photos of 1970s on X the coastline, and then 2024, and it's like there's zero change, and people are like, oh yeah, this is the great rise and all this. People are going to continue arguing this. As far as the sea rise and what's happening, it's like now folks are still arguing about the great change, whether it's humans, whether it's this, whether it's that. Whatever is happening, we are definitely seeing crazy weather. We're seeing all these weird events. We don't know. Nobody can agree on what's behind it. But when you see stuff like this, where the news calls it where they dub it the Doomsday Glacier, known for its rapid destabilization, is undergoing a vigorous ice melt that scientists say could reshape the sea level rise projections. In a new study, glaciologists, which is crazy that there's such a thing, glaciologists from the University of California, Irvine, found that warm, high-pressure ocean water is seeping beneath West Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier, making it more vulnerable to melting than previously thought. The glacier is roughly 80 miles across, the widest on Earth. It packs so much ice that if it were to completely collapse, it could single-handedly cause global sea levels to rise by more than 2 feet. According to the International Thwaites Glacier Collaboration, prompting its moniker as the Doomsday Glacier. Now, a rise of 2 feet doesn't sound like much, but that would put whole towns underwater. I mean, it would put whole cities underwater. 2 feet as far as sea rise would be absolutely insane. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a couple interesting things here when it comes to this particular one. It has what's called an ice shelf, and the ice shelf sits in the water, and it protects the grounded glacier, which is actually connected to bedrock. So if you think about a glass full of water and you put some ice cubes in it, that level is the same, whether those ice cubes melt or stay whole, right? And technically that's what happens with the ice shelf. So should the ice shelf break off, it's already floating in the water. It's not going to change anything. But what they talk about is the grounded or the bedrock portion of the glacier. If all of that ice were to melt, then it would because it's not sitting in water, it's sitting on land, then it would actually equate to it. So, you've got to understand that what they're talking about here is theory. It's not theory. I mean, they're looking at it and they're saying, yeah, the ice shelf is potentially melting a little quicker. And that's true. That won't change anything. But when the ice shelf is gone, then the grounded glacier, because the ice shelf was protecting it, can then what they call calving, where it falls off. It would happen faster into the water. But the time period it takes for that entire glacier to actually melt back into the sea, if things never changed again and they just kept staying the same way they are, we're talking like millennium. We're talking, hundreds or thousands of years for that time period to happen. And yes, it would raise many feet. And it is a true thing, what they're saying, in the sense that scientifically that's correct. I think the question we need to think about is, what else plays into this warm water, and is it always going to be there, or will it ever get cold again? And once it gets cold again, it creates a new ice shelf. If it were to lose its ice shelf, which would be crazy, that's a big thing to happen. But are things cyclical, or are things just going up like a hockey stick, I guess, is the big question. And I'm not saying one or the other, but that's kind of the way you got to think about this. But yeah, doomsday in the sense that if that whole thing did melt, that would be massive, the amount of water that would change, because it is what's on the bedrock, not necessarily just the ice shelf that matters.
Well, it makes you think of the new Navy map, or the Navy map that everybody talks about, where it shows chunks of the United States underwater and things like that. I have a kind of just a curious question about something like this. If you take a glacier like that, what if somebody nuked it, or multiple nukes, and hit something like that? What kind of effect would that have? As far as if somebody did something up there militarily wise. We know that up in Antarctica, almost all the countries are trying to fight over different spots up there. But why? Obviously, the strategic routes that they're making right now, Russia is carving cuts through to go to different places, and the U.S. is up there, China's up there. All of these different countries are fighting over different areas in the Antarctic. I just wonder, like, what would happen if you purposely vandalized or did something massive up there? Could it affect things globally? You know, could a human do something that would even make a dent? As far as like if they actually tried, not normal overtime kind of thing. And let's see here.
It comes down to balance too, right? Like in the balance of things, all that ice came from somewhere, right? And every time it gets there in the form of snow, and the snow comes from what? The evaporation from the ocean. So it's like a cycle of, okay, well, I'm going to melt some back in and I'm going to take some back out. And as long as the balance is fine, everything's good. It's just when something like, like you said, like if somebody were to cause it to melt, like a nuke or something, I don't know if that would actually happen or how much it would happen. But if you cause that balance to shift from where everything is right now, because it is a cycle. Like the snow forms from the water from the ocean, and it turns around and melts right back in.
But even if they said there was, the scientists found that in 120 years that something was going to happen, I can almost guarantee you if people now or any generation hears that, oh, it's 120 years, we don't care. People, if it's down the road 5 years, they don't really care much. But if it was over 100 years, people definitely would not stress about it. Certain countries would, but I guess we'll see. And then Tammy Lee, thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Everyone get water, please, or at least tablets. I agree with you, Tammy, and I mean, you should already. Like, that. It's something that people should already have done because we know so much about, even without hackers hacking into our systems, like how many people trust what's in it. So, yeah. I agree with that. Tammy Lee, thank you so much for your support. Yesterday, thank you, Schaefer Girl. Thank you, Nevitz, Sweatin' a Ministry, Meepup at 007, Bubble Wrap Still Pink, Alan Brooks, Stephen McMahon, Lola Cafe, Richard Koschmeider, Carlton Sutton, Stormhawk. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Genius by Birth, of course. Storitz, thank you. Leah, thank you for modding. And Rip Curl, thank you for being here more often. I appreciate that. Craig Alicious, Carol, and Carol White, thank you. Be Real Beast, I appreciate you as well. Hopefully you are doing well. And ATX1 and Chow Corinne, thank you everybody that has made it this week and helped share us out. All right, and then let's see here. Let's go over, and before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. There's a reason for all of our affiliates. Like I said, Jace, if you are worried about your medications, Jace is a service that you can actually do a telehealth appointment through a board-certified doctor and get yourself either a emergency antibiotics case called the Jace case, which has all of the kind of essentials, and you can even add things to it like albuterol and other medications that they have just a simple add-on system. That would allow you to have extra antibiotics just right there, ready to go. If everything happens, something goes down, a natural disaster, earthquake, hurricane, somebody gets a cut and it gets infected, something, like this, you have antibiotics. Or if you have something that can be cured by that, boom, have it there. In a situation where you don't have a pharmacy you can just go to, or you can't go to the doctor. That's what that is for. Or if you're just stuck somewhere and can't get to somewhere. And they also have the Jace Daily system. That is what we heavily recommend if you can, because Jace Daily takes a lot of the regular medications that you might be taking, regular, very important medications that you can actually get up to a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. So if you want to learn more, go to marfuglenews.com/Jace and make sure to use the code MARF. You can save a lot of money if you end up doing that. So make sure to go check that out. marfuglenews.com/Jace, Jase. From hacks to natural disasters to SHTF, having these kind of things on hand is a really good thing, especially considering the enemy countries we're talking about make 90% of the overall antibiotics and 90% of the APIs, I could tell you one of the first thing that would go in an SHTF scenario, and that would most likely be the pharmacies. So go check it out. Highly recommend it. It's a great service. So go over there to learn more. And then Boeing's Starliner's helium leak adds another delay to debut the crew flight. Man, they are just not having good luck. So we have covered two. Is this the third delay, Dex? I believe this is the third delay to this Boeing operation.
It's either 3 or 4, but yeah, it's been up there.
And they are now delaying it again. This was a crewed flight, so there was going to be humans on board this. You had a whistleblower that came out and said, hey, this is like a life or death thing. You cannot send people up in that thing. There's issues. After that, within about a couple days after that guy blew the whistle, they said, oh, we're going to delay it. And then they delayed it again. Now they're delaying it, I believe, a third time on Tuesday, so engineers can spend more time evaluating a helium leak in the spacecraft's propulsion system. Dex, helium is flammable, is it not? Is that part of the fuel? Like, what is? I wonder what the helium is used for in this case. Like,
I'm assuming it's part of their fuel mixture.
Yeah, so this thing could blow up like a Starlink or a SpaceX anomaly, right? A slight anomaly. I'm assuming that's why they're putting it on hold. It does not make Boeing look good, that's for sure.
It's actually not their fuel. I'm sorry. I just looked it up. It looks like it's used to pressurize and stiffen the structure of rockets before takeoff and to pressurize the tanks of liquid hydrogen or other fuel in order to force fuel into the rocket engine. So it's a secondary component of that engine apparatus and the rocket itself, but not the fuel.
So as far as the launch, it's now delayed again. What the heck is going on with Boeing? If you didn't join me for previous shows, I think something's going on, corporate espionage, or they're sacrificing Boeing. Maybe one of the other massive giants will gobble this up and you'll have even more power in less corporations. Like, are they doing this for stock, like to manipulate stocks or something? I don't know. But all of the stuff that's happening to Boeing, it's just one thing after the next. And this has never been this bad. Like I said, if you're in Washington, or somebody has either worked at Boeing or somebody in their family has. Almost everybody in Washington knows somebody who worked at Boeing or worked at the nuclear plant or worked here. There's places that employ a lot of people. Odds are, if you live in Washington, you know somebody that worked at Amazon, worked at Expedia, worked at Microsoft, or worked at Boeing. So Boeing has had this long time reputation over just the last year and a half. All of a sudden, it just gets put in the dirt. All of a sudden, it's just going to crap. Why? Is it really just their doors are falling off, or is there some sort of corporate espionage, or are they putting it down in the dirt? Is it then? I would not be surprised if General Dynamics or Raytheon or it gets put down in the crap so hard that they end up selling or something, somehow getting gobbled up by one of the other 4 military industrial complex companies, and it gets renamed for this or that. Like, why? How do you destroy a company that's been around for so long and has had a good reputation for this long? It seems like you would have to have constant problems for like years to destroy a reputation as strong as Boeing. And that's exactly what's happening. I don't know. That's what my gut says on this. But what do you guys think? Or are they just really this crappy? Like after decades and decades and decades, they're just all of a sudden the crappiest company out there? I don't know. Something seems off about the whole thing. Doors flying off, wheels falling off, pilots dropping. I mean, just everything. Yesterday, we just covered another thing where a Boeing 777 dropped 6,000 feet because of some sort of malfunction. It's like, what the hell is going on? Every day, we've covered something negative about Boeing. What is happening to Boeing? That's my question. Oh, and then the whistleblowers get taken out or perish of an infection or something, MRSA. It's like it's so obvious that it makes it look like Boeing is taking these people out. But is that meant to happen? Like, they know that if a whistleblower comes forward, that if they disappear, that obviously if they were a big, bad, evil corporation, which all of them are, and they said, oh, that guy's about to blow the whistle on us, it's obvious. Everybody thinks, oh, that if that person gets taken out, who do you think they're going to look at? The prime suspect is going to be the company. So why did that happen twice now? Twice. I don't know. It seems too obvious. And it seems like, obviously, in a world of the internet where everybody's going to say it right off the bat, that they know they have PR people. They have whole teams of PR people. I would think that they would handle a whistleblower with lawyers, not with weapons. That's how the corporations do it now. They can destroy a person, discredit a person, do whatever they want to them. They don't even need to take them out. But I don't know. Depending on what was the guy's claims. The claims weren't shattering. He already got the claims out. I don't know. Something seems off. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, do you get what I mean? I hope I communicated that right.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, it's too suspicious that all this is happening. I mean, there's many reasons why you could look at it, but it almost feels like it's orchestrated either from within or from outside, inside, or even around it, even at a different level. It could, I don't know. I don't want to point any specific finger because I don't have any evidence on it, but it just feels like something's really off there. And it doesn't just necessarily, you can't just write it off as, oh, well, they're too big and they're too dumb. Like, because that's not who they've been. They've been big for a long time, and big companies can continue to be big and survive.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I won't step foot on a Boeing. Vape King, well, it's like 90% of the flights are. Just Matt, it's walking, not trains. 20-minute towns or freedom cities. James Bond GoldenEye. Does that map remind you of that? I like nice, cute, and cuddly names for hurricanes. Something like, I'm not scary, I'm just sweet little Mary. Typical English guy. Yeah, they should. That's actually a great idea. Cute, cuddly names for hurricanes. Like, I don't know. Well, yeah, actually, wasn't there a Hurricane Debbie or something? I don't know. I'm not like, oh, Debbie's coming, you know. Matt Thomas, thank you, says you guys right. Hey, thank you. We appreciate that. And Ingrid Wiggins, thank you. Nickelwise, thank you. Crow. Drain the Swamp 53, thank you. Sean C. Thank you, everybody. Ilea, thank you for being here. Thank you. Make sure to go check out Ilea and all of our mods over on marfooglenews.com/friends. Ilea is super, super talented. Make sure to go check out her channel. Again, you can go find it over at marfooglenews.com/friends. See, since I did it like that, I actually just forgot the friends part. But since I said /friends, you're now not going to be able to forget it. Over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Thanks. All the way out in space. A comet approaching Earth could become brighter than the stars this fall. I have a prediction because I've covered a bunch of these stories like this, and it's weird that I have. Do you remember that other comet that they said was going to be as bright as the moon, the full moon at one point, the double-tailed comet? I traveled. I traveled like 50 or 60 miles to go out into the middle of nowhere to go witness it. I forget what that one was called. Dex, do you remember the name of that comet that I covered years back that all of a sudden disintegrated in front of our eyes? After millions and millions of years of being a thing, it just disintegrated from a Tuesday to a Wednesday. They said, oh, it just blew up. It was weird. Do you remember?
Yeah,
that?
I remember it. I don't remember the name. They mentioned two of them in here, the Great Green Comet and then the Pons Brooks, which I know it's not Pons Brooks. But,
no, it might be the Great Green Comet.
Yeah, it might be that one. I can't remember.
in a year which we already had that treated to the Great North American Solar Eclipse in April and one of the greatest displays of northern lights in the past 500 years, which is insane. It says there is another very big event coming. How about a bright naked eye comet? Over the last couple of years, 2 comets have made headlines in the mainstream media. Comet C, I think this is it. I think this is it. Comet C 2022, informally called the Great Green Comet, passed near Earth, and then during the past month, Comet 12P Pons Brook drew attention because of its proprietary for experiencing sudden flare-ups in brightness and appearing to spout gaseous appendages resembling horns, thus giving the rise to the moniker Devil's Comet, a.k.a. Millennium Falcon, a.k.a. There was another one. There was a third name. Either way, they called it the Devil Comet. It was very creepy. The only problem so far, as the person on the street was concerned, was both comets were difficult to see unless you were located under a dark, non-lit, polluted sky. And even though good binoculars or a small telescope, both were rather unimpressive, appearing as nothing more than a faint, fuzzy blob of light. But by the end of this summer, and this is why I'm saying, man, I'm thinking they're building bunkers and stuff. I don't know. We may have a good idea as to whether we'll have a bright and easy-to-see naked-eye comet gracing our early autumn evening sky. The comet in question is the C2023A3, or the Atlas, discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS. I just want to read that again. Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Like, I know these are scientists, but that's just super creepy. Atlas is like, oh, cool, it's the Atlas. But the Last Alert System, like, that sounds pretty doomsy. Atlas is a robotic early warning system developed specifically for detecting near-Earth asteroids a few weeks to just days before they might impact Earth. If that doesn't give you a chill up your spine. And it says originally thought to be an asteroid, it was later determined that this same object was photographed 6 weeks earlier by a Purple Mountain Observatory in the east of Nanjing, China. It has since been determined to actually be an incoming comet. Breaking, it says, when the comet was first sighted, it was far out beyond the orbit of Jupiter, some 680 million miles away from the sun. But on September 27th of this year, Atlas will be making its closest approach to the sun, coming within 36 million miles. That also happens to be the average distance of the planet that is closest to the sun. And just over 2 weeks later, on October 12th, the comet will pass just 44 million miles from Earth. These figures suggest that the comet might brighten to second or possibly even first magnitude, which could develop a notable tail and could make for an eye-catching sight in the western evening during mid-October 2024. Jeez, if we already have October surprise coming, we're also going to have some crazy astronomical sign in the sky at the same time. I can't wait to see somebody like Jacob cover something like this. Like, the timing of this is just insane as well. We're going to all be in this November whole thing, and people are going to be picking the prez, and right before that, within weeks, we're going to have this huge, massive star in the sky that's going to be as bright as the moon. If it happens how they say it's going to happen, what if it's brighter? What if it's the most magnificent thing ever? And they just discovered it in 2023. It makes you think about, like, what if in 2025 they discover something that's, oh, by the way, this is going to hit in 3 weeks. Like, it brings me back to, like, you know, everybody has their own different beliefs about this, but when I look at Elon Musk trying to get people to Mars and to the moon and stuff, if that is really what is going on, it creeps me out, because the guy who knows probably everything and is on every top clearance list, he is saying that we need to go to other planets to survive. It just creeps me out. And then other people that are guaranteed involved with all of the most important people in the world, Zuckerberg is freaking building $270 million bunkers and getting things flown in as we speak, pallets of food. it makes you think. Dex, go ahead.
Two quick things. One, no one here yet has given us some breaking news that just happened in the last hour, so it'll be on the map if you want to refresh it. And then the second point I want to make, coming from Osmond Holistic in chat, said that the comet you were referring to earlier, and this is interesting, Adam. It was 2020, but here's the interesting part: its name also was Atlas. It was also discovered by the same group, and it was the Atlas C19Y4. And it had disintegrated in mid 2020 into small icy pieces. So I think that may have been the one we saw back then.
So can we back up to this, by the way? So if how many of you watched Don't Look Up? Raise your hand or say you've seen it. If you haven't, you should go watch it. I think it was a piece of art. Dex thought it wasn't that great. I think it was more the acting and how they portrayed the two political sides or whatever, but I thought it was a piece of art, just the same way that I think that Leave the World Behind was a piece of art in a way, how it portrayed it, the ending, everything else. I won't spoil anything. But in Don't Look Up, one thing that is public is the plot is that there is this asteroid coming, and instead of knocking it out of the sky, they choose to go and mine it. This eerily sounds like a lot of what's going on right now. They're talking about $10 trillion comets, this and that, and going and mining these comets. In fact, when Apophis comes in 2029, we are sending OSIRIS-REx, which will now be OSIRIS-APEX, I think, or if it's not, it's reversed. I think it will be OSIRIS-APEX, and that same unit that went out to a different comet is then going to attach or try to land on to Apophis when it gets close. 2029, we're definitely going to have some crazy stuff going on. But as far as that 2019 comet, so it's possibly 1 billion years old. We're watching this, and imagine we're in 2019. We're watching this. Is before CV and everything else. We're watching this happen. They're saying that this thing is up in the sky. We could see it. We could literally go look at it. I went and drove miles and miles and miles out by a reservation and watched it and got pictures of it. It was beautiful. From a Tuesday or a Monday or something, I remember they were talking about it and how it was about to get as bright as the moon sky, the closer it got, whatever else. All of a sudden, on a Wednesday, they're like, oh, it disintegrated. Dex, you were with me. We actually looked back, and we went back in time. We looked up how far they said it was from Earth, and then we said, okay, how fast can the fastest human rocket get to that far? And it was like, what was it? It was like 2.5 years or 3 years. It was like 3 years and 4 months or something like that, right? Do you remember what kind of time frame it was?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was something like. Yeah, it was something like 7 months or something like that. It was whatever it was that time period. Traveling 40,000 miles per hour or whatever the rockets could do at the highest speed.
Okay,
that
so
was that distance. Yeah.
It wasn't even that long. So say it was 7 months that it would take us to get a rocket there. We went back 7 months from that event, from when it disintegrated. And we found top secret launches from the U.S., top secret payloads, everything else, no information on those launches. So is that not freaky or what? Like, of course, all of us the whole world watched DART, but DART was something that wasn't coming towards us or wasn't whatever. We don't know if that thing was coming towards us or what, or if that was an experiment. Maybe they secretly wanted to destroy it or something. I don't know. I'm not saying we did destroy it, but we thought it was very suspicious that you had several top secret launches within 3 weeks, 3 launches or something like that, all in this span that line up with how that thing disintegrated. I thought it was extremely suspicious that the thing has been around for billions of years, possibly toward the beginning of time, and from a Monday to Tuesday, us humans watching this thing, all of a sudden it's gone. That makes no sense to me. It just happens that it was a coincidence that during our lifetime, we saw this thing break apart. I mean, imagine that. It's been around for billions of years, and humans were physically able, in real time, to watch as it destroyed. That, I think it makes more sense that the U.S. or somebody else sent up rockets and destroyed it. I don't know. I feel like there's more going on up there than we think. And movies like Don't Look Up, it's like, what if that was based somewhat on truth, right? Or there's something there behind it. I don't know. It gives me the creepiest feeling. Do you guys remember that? Like, how did it just all of a sudden blow up in front? I guess we're super lucky. Like, as we're all watching it, I was waiting. I was super pumped. I was like, oh, it's going to be as bright as the moon sky. It was going to be an amazing event. And then on a Thursday, they're like, oh, by the way, it just disintegrated. You can't watch it anymore. It's gone. That's why we ended up looking it up. Dex, China's latest answer to OpenAI is chat. Oh, and then what's the breaking news?
Yeah, no one here yet gave us the second one there. China starts the punishment drills around Taiwan.
I see that.
About an hour and a half ago, or at least it's reported. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what this is. So should we cover it first or second?
Either way, we'll talk about them. Whichever one you want to open first.
Okay, let's do the breaking stuff now. So Dex, did no one here yet give you backstory or?
No, just the headline. So,
okay,
but yeah, it's there. It's in the article.
Why didn't you cover it? And I'll cover
certainly.
The next one.
So with the recent changeover of the president there in Taiwan that has now been put in officially into place, I guess, starting the first few days now, China has started 2 days of punishment, quote unquote, punishment drills around Taiwan, starting now. The exercises in the strait around the groups of Taiwan-controlled islands. I'm assuming this is going to be near those islands that are closer to China, as well as the islands that are closer to Taiwan. You know, we've shown you some of those. I can't remember the name of it, but that one island that is literally off the coast of China, mainland China, but it's technically Taiwan's island. So the exercises in Taiwan Strait are around groups of Taiwan-controlled islands that sit next to the Chinese coast. Just comes days after Jing-Ti took office. And they are surrounding those islands with military. They're calling them drills. Anytime they launch drills, and again, this is just breaking, so it's not a lot of detail. It's just that they announced that they were doing this. But anytime they launch drills like this, it's an opportunity for them not to be a drill and to actually be something very sinister. And it could be the start. Now, honestly, I think it's probably a test. It's a test to see how this president reacts and what he does, because he's just now in office. It's literally his first couple days in office, or maybe even his first day. So, you know, we're going to see this. It's definitely a sign or a push from China directed at Taiwan, and we'll see how they react. But yeah, the Imminent Islands, as you're showing there, that's one of them that I know we've covered quite a bit on the show. It's very, very close to mainland. And they've had some incidents there in the past with the Coast Guard and somebody drowning, I think, and they didn't want one Coast Guard interfering with the other, and they were conflicting over who was going to take responsibility and deal with the incidents there. But yeah, that area is now under patrol right now and being surrounded by the military of China.
Yeah, this is Taiwan right here. So when you think of Taiwan, it's already close. They said it's about 120 miles off the coast of China. Kinmen County, this island, this is considered Taiwan. This is a couple miles, like 3 or 4 or 5 miles. I think at points they say 10 kilometers. So about 10 kilometers from here to when you get to this point, it's in meters. So about from here to here, it's about 10,000 meters. That's pretty incredible. In fact, from here to here, about 5,000 meters. That's incredible. So they are right there. They're screwed if everything goes down. And right now, this whatever they call it, the punishment drills, I think it's timely. Putin just visits Xi. Everybody in the audience called this like, oh, something big's about to go down. Now they're doing these punishment drills. One thing I look at too is I reverse back, look at the whole world. Venezuela and Guyana Russia, they are supposedly about to do some big push. And then North Korea is doing all of these odd kind of events too. Iran. What was the big thing with Iran? Well, wasn't Iran putting out some big words or threatening? So you have kind of all of the main countries lining up. I think that all of this would happen at the same time, that it would all start popping off one after another. But what do you guys think? And then China's latest answer to OpenAI is ChatGPT. Internet regulator uses Chinese leaders' political philosophy to help answer questions posed to latest large questions. Beijing's latest attempt to control how artificial intelligence informs Chinese internet users has been rolled out as a chatbot trained on the thoughts of President Xi Jinping. The country's newest large language model has been learning from its leader's political philosophy known as Xi Jinping thought on socialism and Chinese characteristics for a new era. They needed something short and snappy, right? As well as other official literature provided by the Cyberspace Administration. Quote, the expertise and authority of the corpus ensures the professionalism of the generated content. Basically, it is China and Xi approved. This is absolutely wild. So in China, they actually have systems set up with your social credit score where you actually get credits and it works out to your advantage if you actually spend time in this app learning about Xi Jinping. We're in 2024 and they're sitting there basically required to learn about their president and his beliefs. Like, this is cuckoo. This is cuckoo for coconuts, okay? And this is in modern day society in a technologically advanced country. They're basically the cult of Xi. I mean, it's insanity. Dex, as far as they're basically it's a huge censorship thing. I mean, they're giving everyone the AI through the lens of Xi Jinping's beliefs or the CCP's beliefs.
Well, we've limited their capabilities on AI by not allowing them to have fancy chips that will actually process these large language models the way something like ChatGPT could. So they have to use probably a smaller corpus of information, such as just Xi's philosophy. And I'm also going to think that maybe it's not as powerful. So you're not going to be able to get some of the funny things you might get out of it, where it starts to spew its own hallucinations and start talking random gibberish or going off on different unfounded or untrue tandems that ChatGPT does. So because it probably can't process that much information. But anyway, yeah, I agree. Cuckoo for cocoa nuts. I like the way you said that. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I got the biggest chuckle when I saw this.
I mean, it's through his view. I mean, if you live there, everyone's tracked. Everyone has an independent number to them. They have these basically books of knowledge in their what is their system again? It's blanking on my mind. It's WeChat. Is it WeChat? I think it's WeChat. I don't know if WeChat is the app that they use.
Yeah.
But they use an app that has pretty much everything in it. It's got everything in. And it has informational books about Xi's thoughts. And like, this is our future, depending on who ends up being in charge. I imagine this. Imagine if you had an app that would literally affect your life, like your credit score affects whether you can buy plane or train tickets. Imagine something that factored into that as learning about JB's our current president's like golfing methods or something, right? Like, imagine the insanity around that. Imagine like learning about his moral beliefs of what Brandon loves and doesn't love. Like, that's insanity. That, my friend, is cuckoo for coconuts. And yes, somebody corrected it as Cocoa Puffs, but that was the copyright-free version there.
I like your version better.
Cocoa nuts.
I think it's nuts.
Cuckoo for cocoa nuts. Nobody make a shirt with that. All right. DHS admits border has been open to criminal and terrorists. Really? let's do. I wish I had a button that was just like, duh. That's the duh button. Okay, we're gonna get a duh button at some point. Maybe a durr button. A durr. DHS admits border has been open to criminals and terrorists. The JB administration experiment with a relatively open southern border. Dude, are they calling it, like, the fact that they're calling it an experiment with a relatively open southern border has been shocking in the sheer number of people who have been coming across over the last 3 years. By the way, to put it that way, like, I know that it's not JB admitting that, but like, to think of like what has been going on in the southern border as just like another, like, oh, let's experiment. Let's let a bunch of people in. It really seems like that's what it is, because obviously they were like, oh, come on down. We're not going to do anything. Come on down. Immediately after they said that, immediately after people in official capacities were like, come on down. Guess a number and get on The Price is Right or get citizenship. After they did that, almost immediately we saw the convoys start. Do you guys remember when all of this started? It was our fault. But they found out something shocking, that a bunch of bad people and terrorists are getting into the country. Dex, can you believe this? A bunch of criminals and bad people are getting in our country?
Well, they would never admit that, but apparently they just did. And that's kind of, we're all over going, well, of course, we knew this all along. Wake up. What the heck's going on? But yeah, here's the thing. They revealed that they're not doing the background checks on those millions of crossers until they get to the asylum hearing, which happens much later, sometimes very, very later. So by postponing that, I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. It's just like, are you going to arrest somebody? I don't know. I don't even want to give an example. So but it just seems so dumb.
It's a complete accident. They are saying that they unwittingly let this out. Think about this. You get across, you even get arrested, then in some cases re-released to go about living here until your court date or wherever you may be. At that hearing, that's when they do a background check and find, oh, this person's on a T list. Oh, this person's wanted for murder in Paraguay. That's when they do it. This should be absolutely ridiculed. This should be the top thing today. But of course, it's going to be minimized by almost every media. Especially the same media that told everybody, yes, this is a good thing. It's great. If you don't think it's great, then you're the R word. You're a horrible person. You should be canceled. Before we move on, make sure to go check out Harvest Right. As far as if you've heard about freeze-dried food and why it is so awesome, it can last up to 25 years. The downside is it can get extremely expensive. Harvest Right is an investment. Harvest Right is actually one of the best made machines to actually freeze-dry your own foods, and it might not be right for everybody, and here's why. As far as a freeze-drying machine, like the Harvest Right Pro models, things like this, it may not be fit for you. But if you have a couple people in your family and you're trying to get 12 months of food together and this is one of your active goals, or even 6 months of food, doing it yourself is going to be super, super cost efficient compared to buying it. Reason why, I mean, obviously, if you went the most expensive route and went to Walmart, one meal can be $15. Whereas if you want to freeze dry your own meals, you could spend as little as 15 cents. Obviously nowadays that would be like pastas and things and rice and things like that. But if you want to go and price cut your own meat and do your own stuff or catch your own meat, you can then freeze dry it and keep it up to 25 years. So this is a really cool thing, and it's of course it actually turns into a hobby. Most people that do this for fun on top of their requirements of having food stored. It is a very, very cool thing. It's a very easy machine to use. And of course, the freeze drying process, it keeps in almost all of the nutrients, almost all of the flavor, and you get to choose what's in it. So if you have dietary restrictions, if you have certain things you can't eat, you can customize it. If you want to go and try to save as much money as possible getting the actual food you're going to be freeze drying, if you want to go on the bargain hunt for your meat, if you want to go and get things on sale and then freeze dry it, that's up to you. That's the power it affords you once you get it. But they are not a cheap machine. These are built like appliances used to be built. They're built extremely well. Otherwise, we would not be representing it. Harvest rights during CV were so coveted that people were literally marking them up and reselling them. They were very, very hard to get for a while there. So if there is another disaster, it would be very hard to get something like this. So again, if you do want to get into it, it's something that the earlier you get into it, the better, especially since it is also electronic. Everything electronics wise is going up in price. But once you have it, then once you've freeze dried that food, you've packaged it in Mylar bags, then you have it and you can then store it however you'd like. So go over to marfooglenews.com/freeze, and you can also enter to win one. Again, go over to marfooglenews.com/freeze. Importantly, though, it is up to $500 off on the Pro models, depending on which one, and you get free shipping. So that is, again, make sure to go over and check it out. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the drinking water warning issued nationwide.
Yeah, this is really crazy, guys. You've got to go watch the news video that we did over on Marfoogle News. I know many of you may have came in from that, but if you didn't and you didn't see that, go back and watch it. Head over to Marfoogle News on YouTube, grab that short video and share it out with as many people as you can. There is a nationwide warning right now for our drinking water. And while we have talked about these things, this is actually coming out from the EPA, and they're pushing this notion to all of the water municipalities because over 70% of them are not being in compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. There's a lot more details in here that we need to know, that you need to know about, especially as you look into what has happened with some of the other hacks that have happened to the water systems around America in the last, say, 2 years. There's like 3 or 4 of them that we've documented. It's in that news story. You should go see it. And then when you look at what has happened with the infiltration of foreign adversaries into our companies secretly, and what's happening with that, like North Korea as an example, that's documented in that too. So go check it out. Really great video. Adam did a fine job putting all of those and connecting all of those dots. But man, this is a big warning. I think everybody should know about it, and make sure you let all your friends and family know what's going on.
And as far as that video goes, of course, it is available over on our website, marfooglenews.com. You can also go watch it over on Twitter, and you can reach it right here. So, and if you're not following me over on Twitter, at Marfoogle, MARFOOGLE, you can find me right there. Crazy stuff going on over on X as well. And then Bill Fortenberry, first of all, we need to fix our nation. I agree. Bill Fortenberry, thank you for the support. And Neil Nelson, thank you for the super emoji. I appreciate that. And thank you over on DLive. Thank you for everybody that keeps that alive over there. Laura Griffith, Vicky K, Vault Music, and everyone else. I appreciate you. Kimbria, thank you. And, of course, thank you to the mods. More than anything, go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. And, again, make sure to go click and watch that Marfoogle News video. Share that out with friends and family if you can. That would be the most valuable out of the last week of stuff to share. That is right there. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Same ones that we shall fight, that this cop will be okay. Thank you so much. Have a good night.